Hi, John. Yep. Uh, oh. Greetings, folks. This is Brian Harris with the Independent Black Voters. Our vote is not free. We're continuing our series of Know Your Candidates. Today, I have John Hunt, who is here. Did I say that right, John?
Yep, John
Hunt, who is here as a judicial candidate for Department 18. John, first of all, thank you for taking the time to talk to us with the Independent Black Voters.
No, thank you. I really appreciate it. I think that these events are really critical to getting an informed members of the public to know who their judicial candidates are.
Absolutely. So we're going to start off and let you tell us a little bit about you. We want to know a little bit about you.
Okay.
A little bit about why you decided to run. So
okay.
Here you go.
A little bit about me. I'm one of 6 kids, Betty and Francis Hunt. My dad worked in a shoe shop. My mom worked in a textile mill. I tell this story that my dad, there were so many kids that he used to tell us he had a 90-day rule. And the 90-day rule was 90 days from graduating high school, he told all of us we would be doing one of 3 things. One, you would be in college. Then he said, sorry, I have no dough. You'd have a job or you'd be in the military. On the 91st day, I was on an airplane going to Lackland Air Force Base. I was in the Air Force for 4 years. After I got out of the Air Force, I went to school every night. I was in the Air Force. And I came to Las Vegas, one of the greatest things I ever did, 1976. And I went to UNLV. At UNLV, I was very active in student government. And very active in the community. I say my claim to fame, I was one of the last guys cut from the Final Four team that got beat by North Carolina. I thought Tark was going to keep me for my grade point average. But you know what? That allowed me to get involved. And I tell you, one of the things about me, everybody knows the UNLV mascot, right? And when I came to Las Vegas, the mascot for UNLV was a wolf called Beauregard. It had a Confederate wolf. And Reggie Theus and these guys that I got to play hoop with, you know, said, hey, John, we got to get rid of this. And I agreed with that. You know, we can't be associated with the Confederacy. So at the time, it was 1976, I went to student government. This is way before all the political things that are going on now. And I had the black fraternities, the Kappas, and some others. Everybody, we said, okay, 2 things. Do we still want to be the rebels? And do we still want to have the mascot? Everybody said, get rid of the mascot, but we still want to be rebels. And so it was 1976, it was a bicentennial. So I made the mascot a colonial running rebel, like a Minuteman. So there was no connection between UNLV and the Confederacy. And I'm very proud of that. And the mascot was abolished. And the mascot then was a colonial rebel for about 5 years. And then I'm also was a member of the UNLV alumni. And they wanted to change the mascot, right? And they had this Yosemite Sam guy. And I said, well, you know, it's a little too Colonel Sanders for me. But I think that the important thing, there was this transition. And lately, the same thing, the history of this, and it's really important for our community, was recently I've talked, you know, because they removed the statue at the Alumni Hall. I had no problem with that. I think it's good. You know, sensitivity is really a way to communicate. If you're sensitive to people, you can communicate. If you're not, your ears are closed. And so right now we talked about, and I said, you know, the problem is that it's kind of still too associated with the South. And so I said, we should do a press conference. We'll bring the mascot in, we'll dress him up a little bit better. And and we're going to say, he's going to say, my name's John C. Fremont. Everybody that's been in Las Vegas knows John C. Fremont. And the thing, and I said, so, and we're going to take that rebel crap, I can't swear, I know it's not good. So we're going to take that buckle off where it says, hey, Reb, and we're going to call him Fremont. And John C. Fremont was a pretty amazing guy. He came through Las Vegas, but more importantly, during the Civil War, he was the head of the Western Division of the Missouri area. 2 years before Lincoln did the Emancipation Proclamation, John C. Fremont emancipated everyone in the Western Territory.
Wow, I did not know that.
Yeah, and Lincoln didn't like it, so he canned him. But then John C. Fremont came back. He was the first senator from California, and he was the first governor of Arizona. So to me, that's the kind of mascot we want, you know? And we totally disconnect from South. Okay, I digress. So then I graduated from UNLV. I worked at the Gaming Control Board. After the Gaming Control Board, I went to law school. I was, you know, it's so important to me about diversity. And I came from a very poor background. So the University of San Diego had a diversity program. And I called my group, they saw this economically disadvantaged, but I called us the poor white trash, right? And actually one of the greatest honors I've ever had, because we could elect someone president of the Black law students, Hispanic, Asian, Native American, and they elected me as president. I got to argue people into law school, you know, because the people that came from where I came from, you know, hard place, was that you need to give people a hand up, not a handout. You give them the opportunity. And I used to argue before the admissions committee to get minorities and into law school, that maybe their LSAT wasn't that good or their GPA. So I was all on it. So I walk the walk. I don't talk the talk. Then I've had an incredible, blessed life here in Las Vegas, 36 years of trial experience, 36 years of doing everything you can possibly imagine, and always keeping to be an activist in the community, because that's very important. I also sit as a pro tem judge in justice court and municipal court, and it is there that I truly separate myself from my opponent, who's a career prosecutor. I was a finalist for the DA against Steve Wilson, and I'll never forget being interviewed, and they asked me, well, what are your thoughts? And I said, you know, the biggest problem with the DA's office is two things. First, there's not enough diversity. And if I would have been appointed, I lost by 1 vote. Lawrence Weekly backed me, right? But I lost by 1 vote. And I said, the first thing is not enough diversity. Second thing was really what's important is that there had to be a change in the headset of people in the DA's office. And I was going to try to do that because I said, the problem with the DA's office is they think that it's about winning cases. It's not about winning cases. They're there in the interest of justice, you know? And my dad used to say, you know, prosecution in the interest of justice knows no limits. Persecution of anyone's intolerable. And I'll never forget during that interview, they asked me this question. They said, do you think minorities are overcharged? And my opponent, that time, Steve said, no. And they looked at me and I said, absolutely they are. And I said, I'll give you a really good example. And I said this in front of the NAACP. I said, I sit as a judge, right? And I'll give you an example. If someone steals a quart of milk and they're of color or they're poor, right? Out of a 7-Eleven, in order to grind them, they go, oh, we're going to charge you with a felony, which is burglary because you entered a commercial place. And then we're going to charge you with trespass and larceny. And I said, that's outrageous. That's outrageous. I said, what you always should do, and, you know, and this, you know, one of the biggest problems with prejudice bias, it's really rooted in economics, you know, crapping on somebody who's on the bottom of the pile. And I said, when I sit as a judge down there in justice court, the way I do it is, first thing I do is I tell them who I am. Then I say, I'm going to call your name, right? And if I mispronounce your name, it's really important that you tell me how to pronounce it correctly, because it's about respect, right? Getting that respect so that we can communicate. And I tell them, and I jokingly say, today what happens is 99% you make the decision. There's 2 doors in here. The one in the back, you go home, and the one to the left goes to the Gray Bar Motel, right? But how I'm going to do that, and my opponent, she says that she's a law and order person. Well, we know what the code for that means. So I say to people, I go, this is how I do it. And I remember in front of the NAACP, I said, there's only one book I know by its cover. You can tell by its cover. I said, the Bible, right? I said, but here in this environment, first thing I'm going to do in order to determine what we're going to do today is I'm going to look and see if you have a book of business, right? So if I look and you have no book of business, then I am going to exercise a ton of discretion. Mm-hmm. You are a habitual criminal, right? Not so much, right? Because we all have to take responsibility, right? But at the same token, everybody should look at somebody's history, their past, who they are. When I ran for Attorney General, because I got beat by Sandoval, one of my things when I was doing the AG was reinstating people's voting rights. That is systemic racism, because it basically subjugates a group of people by making them a felon. They never can play the game again. That's outrageous. So at least that's come about. The latest thing that I've been on is on this thing with bail. Okay. Now, to me, it's been said so well, poor people, people of color, bail means jail. Mm-hmm. That's outrageous. Now, there's a new case that just came out with the Supreme Court called Jimenez, where now they have to flip it, which is great. And the burden of proof is on the prosecutor. But you know that's a great case. But you know what really is what's the best thing, Brian? The best thing is that if we really want to solve the problem, you have to have judges who have the courage to say, wait a second, I'm not going to look at this bail. I'm going to look, are you a threat to the community, right? Do you pose a flight threat? If you don't, there should be no bail. There should be no bail, because bail means jail to poor people and people of color. So that's kind of like who I am as a person. And like I said, I've been blessed to be in this community. I'm a member of the True Love Baptist Church. My brother, Jerome Freed, when we were in UNLV, one of the greatest things that we had a integrated fraternity, and that was the business fraternity. Mm-hmm. Through him, I was his mom, Mother McGow, over at the True Love Baptist Church with I.W. Wilson and Reverend Jacobs. I really immersed myself in that community because to me is my background being in a place. My dad, although he only had a 6th grade education, he had innate justice, and he used to say to me, he gave me the riddle of life. You know what the riddle of life was?
What?
That he said that I was no better than anyone else, but nobody was better than me. And if I could figure that out, I'd live a pretty good life. And that he was on the bottom of the pile. And usually on the bottom of the pile, you get into the mob mentality of crapping on other people. Mm-hmm. Not my dad. So I'm going to get emotional a second. Because he was a man that instilled character in me. And I know we're just kicking the can around here, but I'll give you an example. I worked for my dad. We hung windows and doors. My dad used to say that in order to hang a window properly, it had to have 11 screw holes. And I'd caulk the window, clean it, and he'd go up a ladder, 3 stories, with one hand, slap that thing on before there were electric guns, and he had a ratchet. So one day I decided, you know what? 7 holes is plenty. You don't need 11, right? He took the window up the 3 stories, and all of a sudden the window came down and almost missed my head and crashes to the ground. My old man comes down, bounding off the ladder, grabs me, and he pulls me, and he goes, do you know what character is? And because I thought I was going to be a lawyer someday, oh yeah, what people think of you in the community, your reputation. He goes, that's bullshit. Character is something you have when no one's looking. And you just fail. And he fired me, and I grew up in New England in a tenement building. And we were in Lowell, Massachusetts. He fired me on the spot, and I had to hitchhike home.
Wow.
Okay. So, like I said, and I've been lucky. The kind of law I've done, I've done everything from traffic court to being admitted to the United States Supreme Court. I do pro bono work for people who otherwise wouldn't be represented. I do it to the Nevada Appeals Court. I've argued to Nevada Supreme Court. I've argued to the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals. I worked on the largest libel case in the history of the United States, Wayne Newton versus NBC. And from that, I got admitted to the United States Supreme Court. So you say, why am I running for judge? I'm running for judge because my dad told me, some point in your life, you got to give back. You know, I think that being a judge should be a capstone. It shouldn't be a stepping stone, right? You take all these years of experience so that when you show up in court, I do not judge you with sympathy. I judge you with empathy, right? That I'm sitting on the bench. I'm not asking the clerk for the answer. I'm telling the clerk where to go get it, right? And we have so many people that are running for judge, you know, they don't know crap from Shinola because they've only been practicing 5 years. I didn't even know where the bath was in the courtroom for the first 5 years, right? And that's what it's about. Whether you support me, please support people who have a breadth of experience, know who they are. You know, when people run for office and stuff, they think that if they have no fingerprints, they have no history. You know, I went from high school to college to law school, and now I'm clean as a whistle. I got no fingerprint. And I say to them, no, go have a life, then come back and tell me how to run mine. Mm-hmm. I had a life. I raised 3 kids. All my kids, UNLV. My oldest, he went to, he was in the 82nd Airborne. He's a sniper, right? And all that gives you the ability to communicate with people. If
Absolutely.
You communicate with people, it's like these judges. To me, if I became a judge, the one thing that you're not going to see is me not just staying in the courthouse. Go out into the community. Tell everybody, go to the west side, go to the east side, and tell them, I know the system is so daunting, but if somebody tells you, listen, this is what can happen, educate people, give something back so that they understand where if the process happens, if someone's an improper person, litigant, right? My thing is I always try to educate them. You know, okay, this is what you can do. This is what you can't. I don't get frustrated, right? You know, these judges sometimes, they don't have time for that. That's crap. These people's lives are on the line. And if the judge doesn't know what he's doing, he can do more harm than the system. So whether you elect me or anybody else, look who they are, find out who they are, see if they have roots in our community, you know, and see if they have the intellect to really use it. You know, I'm a street kid with a good education, makes me dangerous.
Yep. Hey, John, I'm going to tell you something. First of all, wow, because usually when I ask people to give an introduction, they try to give as little as possible. And I thank you because that's a breath of fresh air is to hear somebody with passion who's willing to speak their mind, who realizes that's what we in my community want to know. We want to know who you are. We're not concerned about, you know, who endorses you. We're not concerned about, you know, a lot of the extraneous things. We have issues right here. We're looking for social justice. We're
exactly
equal opportunity. We're looking for people who are ready to go tear down the system of systemic racism. And I love the fact that I didn't have to prompt you. You don't know how good it is to sit here and let somebody tell me what I agree with, to talk without prompts, to know what you are. So I thank you on that, because these are the interviews I enjoy. When a person can speak from their heart, and obviously are not afraid of speaking their mind, because there are 2 people here. There's John, the judge, and John's the person. And we want to know you as a person. We want to know who you are as a person. And do you actually understand what's going on? Do you understand the differences? Just like you say, if a person's had a silver spoon in their mouths all their lives, they think everybody has the same silver spoon.
Or they're afraid, or they become afraid because they don't know the people that they're dealing with. And
Absolutely.
so that creates fear.
Absolutely. So again, you answered a lot of my questions actually without me prompting you. So that makes things a lot easier. um, I'm going to tell you something. We're going to be doing our endorsements. I reached out to your to your opponent. They did not respond for me, has not returned, and that's fine. I'm okay with it. One of the things I tell people is here at the Independent Black Voters, we want to speak to everybody who wants to speak to us, regardless of their past, regardless of their affiliation. We want to talk to everybody, and we want to talk about the issues that you just talked about. So I'm actually going to tell you, you kind of hit all the points without me having to prompt you. So I thank you. I'm going to go forward and do this.
Okay.
I'm going to say, this is Brian Harris. Wow, you got to hear a young man who is
I'm
running.
kind of old though, not so young. I'm a little old in the tooth.
I'll give it to you, young man at heart. Just like me. I'm an old young man at heart. And
Exactly.
I can say this, we need change, folks. We need change in the judicial systems. We need change around this country. We need change in the state assemblies. We need change in the presidency. We need change everywhere. And we're not
Amen
going
to
to change
that.
unless we go out and be informed voters. So, John, I did not know you from Adam until this call. And I can say it took a while to get to you, but I'm so glad I got to you. I'm going to talk to you.
Brian, thank you for, giving me that last chance. And the minute I saw it, I jumped on it. The one thing is like, I haven't done this. I ran for attorney general and that was but this being a judge, getting elected to say yes or no.
Mhm.
Being a judge is really trying to let people know. When you said, you're right. All I talk from my heart, and my heart leads to my brain, and my brain then can make better decisions.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So we're going to do this. I want to talk to you after I hit the record button, but I want you to give everybody all of your information again, your full name, your contact information, the department you're running to, and your real quick blurb on why they should vote for you. I'm going to end it up, and then we're going to talk offline. Okay?
Okay, that'd be great. John Hunt, I'm running for Department 18. I'll give you my cell number. My cell number is 281-2696. My direct line to my office, my law firm is 702-697-7512. And again, what is really important is that I'm running for judge because I believe that my personal history, my roots in this community, my 36 years of experience in every kind of law possible, my experience on the bench with my criminal justice and the justice has prepared me to serve you, your community, my community, the place that we love, in a fair and equitable manner where everyone is treated with dignity and respect.
Thank you. And again, this is the Independent Black Voters, folks. November 4th, we're leading up to a time where major decisions must be made. We cannot sit on the sidelines. We cannot guess. We cannot say, I don't know. Because what affects us now will affect us for years to come. I encourage you to continue to be an educated voter. I encourage you to ask your questions. Our vote is not free. Our vote cannot be taken for granted, and our vote is priceless. So we must vote, but we must be educated voters and take the time to learn about the candidates. John, I really appreciate you coming on.
I really appreciate you.
A breath of fresh air. I'm going to pause this and I want to talk to you, so don't go away, okay?
Okay, all right.
Thank you.